We're here with Claire VALDEZ, running for New York 7. As you guys know, I'm trying to get Socialist elected, and Claire happens to be one. We're very honored and very excited to have you on the stream. You have been side by side with Zohran Mamdani from the beginning of the Underdog campaign.
That's right.
You've been there from the jump, and now you're running for Congress. Welcome to the broadcast.
Thank you very much.
I'm sure people are going to have a lot of thoughts, but let's get started on your background.
Yeah, totally. So I'm currently a New York State Assembly member, like Zohran was, and here's one of the people who actually really convinced me to run in the first place when I was running for Assembly. We had a really great conversation about what our offices could do to build socialism beyond the legislature, and it was really inspiring. But before that, I was a union member. I was in UAW Local 2110, and I worked at Columbia University as an administrative assistant there. And I organized alongside 500 of my coworkers who are also administrative assistants, clerical workers, call center workers, the most underpaid, hardest working people on campus. And we organized and bargained against Columbia University, a $14 billion endowment institution that is mostly a real estate portfolio at this point, but also happens to grant degrees. So I got my start in union politics, and that was my introduction to this crazy world of organizing.
Okay.
I'm also a GSA member for the past 7 years, since 2019.
So yeah, you organized alongside your colleagues at Columbia for the UAW, and you were talking about the clerical workers and all the people that 500 members that are some of the most
underpaid, most invisible workers on campus who actually make the university run. And we went toe-to-toe with Columbia, got to sit across the table for management to negotiate our contract. It's a transformative experience to sit across from your boss and be an equal. And that was really my start into organizing, into politics, and it's the fight that I want to take to Washington now.
Hell yeah. What are some of the agenda items? Like if you were to break it down, Zohran style, 5 major points you want to hit on your campaign, what would you say those 5 points are? Because this is not a mayoral race.
Right.
This is a congressional race. So obviously the stakes are higher.
Yep.
You have more power, technically. I mean, I guess the
mayor's got a lot of power.
Mayor's got a lot of power in New York.
Yeah.
But I meant you are going to be building coalitions with other progressives, inshallah, once you get in office.
Yep.
And there's going to be a legislative agenda. Mm-hmm. Obviously, it's still impacted by whether or not Democrats are going to win the majorities in both the houses, and there's still the White House.
Yep.
But let's say you are now a part of Congress, and you've been able to secure coalitions within the Congressional Progressive Caucus. What are the 5 things that you would want to bring to the table?
Yeah. So the campaign's really about housing for all, healthcare for all, unions for all, ending the genocide in Gaza, and abolishing ICE. So the big picture platform is around those 5 things. I'd say in terms of legislation, the things that I'm really excited about fighting for: passing the PRO Act finally, winning social housing across the United States and here in New York.
Okay.
Let's go.
So I love that.
Yeah.
This is something that I've had a big gripe with the national Dems, with the party in general, including but not limited to even the likes of, I would say, Bernie Sanders, because there is no real vision. This is a often not discussed element of the affordability crisis that Americans are facing. Housing for all as a policy, or social housing as a policy, is, I feel unheard of in America, but it is definitely one of the most important aspects of, I think, a socialist position, a leftist position. So it's actually quite surprising to hear that from someone who is running for Congress.
We don't talk enough about tenants and about social housing at the national level. Oftentimes at the national level, when we talk about housing, we're talking about tax incentives for homeowners, things like that. That the only path for stable housing is homeownership. This is a district that is 77% tenants, overwhelming percentage of tenants. And those tenants live in market rate housing, they live in rent stabilized housing, in public housing. but we need a real pathway towards true stability and decommodified housing at the federal level. AOC carries the Homes Act to be very supportive of that, but we need to be thinking about deeply affordable, permanently affordable, democratically managed housing, and social housing is the way forward. I was in Barcelona a few years ago doing a tour of their social housing developments there, and just beautiful, beautiful housing. We have the richest country in the world, and certainly the richest city in that country. We have the resources to make this happen.
All right, I'm gonna show you a video.
Yeah.
A chap might know what I'm about to show. Have you seen this one?
Our boy.
American housing is in crisis. Right now, up to 12 million Americans are behind an average of $5,800 on rent and risk eviction.
A young Zohran Mamdani.
Pre-suit Mamdani.
Yeah, pre-suit Mamdani, talking about how socialists solved the housing crisis on the Gravel Institute way back in the day. This was my first encounter.
This is
the first time the first time I saw Zohran Mamdani. And I mean, I'm gonna be honest, he didn't leave a lasting impression on me at all, because only years later, after I had met him, people were like, oh, remember when you reacted to his video on the Gravel Institute? But yeah, 2021.
Incredible. It's amazing. And I should shout out to my colleague Emily Gallagher, Assembly Member Gallagher, who carries the state version of the Social Housing Development Authority here in New York State. So lots of socialists are already working on this at the state, federal level. But it's a vision for truly equitable and socialist housing, frankly. And it's possible in other developed countries and other countries around the world. We can do it here in the United States.
Yeah, so the big focus on that piece from the Gravel Institute is obviously Red Vienna, which is a very famous, often talked about version of social housing and how it works. 65% of all of the readily available housing inventory in Austria, in Vienna, is social housing, government-owned housing. And these are beautiful apartment complexes that have a shit ton of amenities.
Pools.
Yeah, pools.
Beautiful, yeah.
Balconies, green spaces, third spaces where people can congregate.
Yep.
And I think one aspect that's often misunderstood about social housing is they think, oh, this is brutalist architecture, this is ugly, whatever, all this stuff. First of all, even if that was the case, I'd still prefer that to rampant homelessness, you know, people in the wealthiest country on the planet being forced to sleep outside.
Yeah.
But that's not the case anyway. And just like with adequate public transit and all these other social and welfare policies, there is a more the people become more cohesive as a unit. There's a communal aspect to it.
Yep.
When you live in social housing such as this, where it's like mixed income for the most part as well, like true mixed income housing, and people learn to love their neighbors. People become more neighborly.
Absolutely.
You know, this is how you create, as conservatives love to talk about, a high trust society.
Ah, sure.
Yeah.
Well, and when we really invest in these things and make them truly beautiful, the housing I saw in Barcelona was gorgeous, gorgeously designed, and it was social housing. It was also co-ops. There were a lot of different paths for kind of like truly equitable, democratically managed and affordable homes. That can look a lot of ways as your family changes over time, as you go from being a single person to married to having children and then being an empty nester. There are many paths forward for what that housing can look like and feel like, but when we really invest in it and make it beautiful, I don't know, that builds a constituency for this kind of program too. A lot of times people just think about public housing in New York and NYCHA, which has been so underfunded and just gutted. And that's like a right-wing attack on a public entitlement that all New Yorkers should be able to enjoy, and that many more people should be able to enjoy as well. And so people conflate this idea with like, oh, government housing is like, you know, falling apart. And it's like, it is because we've made the political choice to abandon it and abandon those residents. And we can absolutely change that.
Same austerity that has impacted public schooling.
Yep.
Same initiatives that have tried to move funds away from public schools to private education, with charter schools and whatnot, with the express purpose of gutting and destroying one of the last remaining powerful labor unions in this country, the teachers union. It's the exact same issue. Yep. A lot of people don't understand that when a social policy is failing, it's actually been made to fail by the government.
Yep.
It is being made to fail deliberately by the government with the hopes that they can actually justify privatization down the line.
Absolutely.
And we see this even in places like European countries, like the UK, that has a fairly robust, fully nationalized system of healthcare.
Yep.
They have the national healthcare system, and it's long been presented as the pride and joy
Yep.
of the United Kingdom. They don't get a lot of stuff right there, but that was one thing that they got right.
Absolutely.
And that was a policy that was long and hard fought for by socialist, trade unionists, communists, making the Social Democratic Labor Party to concede on this position.
Absolutely.
And now it's a system that British people not only take for granted, but actually see as the way of the land.
Yeah.
There's no cutting the NHS, so much so that even the Tories, when they're running, like Boris Johnson, I still remember when he was running after like 10 years of Tory austerity, was still running to fund the NHS. Now he was lying, but that's important to acknowledge.
Yes.
Because once these amenities, or not even the amenities, but like once these social policies are implemented, people expect them.
Absolutely.
And people don't want them to go away. I guess Social Security is one example we can use here in the United States of America.
Medicare. The task before socialists right now is to rebuild these universal public entitlements, like Social Security, like Medicare. We need Medicare for all, absolutely. Because when you have universal programs, you build universal constituencies for those things. It's not just a service for poor people or the other, it's for all of us. And so NHS is incredibly popular because it services every single person in the UK. If we had a robust Medicare for all system in the United States, that services everyone, and no one goes without. And so of course there'll be mass investment and mass enthusiasm for such a program. When it's just for a few people, or when it's means tested to shit, like no one has faith that it's gonna screw other people.
Universality is the only path forward because any sort of like benefits cliff creates resentment.
Yes,
it also unironically does lock people into refusing to take like there's a benefits cliff for Medicaid.
Yeah.
And I know that I have a lot of members in my community that are making this really unfair choice to not take on a different job that would pay them a little bit more, because all of the benefits that they get from Medicaid, once they lose that eligibility, the additional salary raise that will not make up for that benefits cliff.
Right.
So it traps people into a version of poverty.
Yep.
Universality addresses this problem.
Yep, absolutely.
And I think that's precisely the reason why capital owners do not want it to happen.
Yeah, exactly. No, 100%. No, again, and when you build universality into these programs, that's an entire constituency of people who cannot be ignored, of people who are, God forbid, triple prime Democratic voters who will raise hell if their benefits are being cut. And so that's exactly why we need things like universal child care. And we're fighting right now at the state level to make sure that we're taxing the wealthiest New Yorkers, the most profitable corporations, and so that the universal child care program that our wonderful mayor has just rolled out is truly universal and durable for the long term. Because otherwise it's just going to be a temporary win and not the kind of program that will actually help New Yorkers.
Absolutely. So let's talk about New York politics in particular. You're a state assembly member. You brought up an initiative about social housing in New York. You also brought up that like a version of social housing already exists, or public housing exists in New York, even though it's underfunded. So do you want to talk a little bit more about that? I'm going to be meeting with the DSA slate tomorrow as well.
Amazing.
Yeah,
totally. Well, I mean, on DSA slate, hi slate mates. Really great to have you all on the slate together. Really incredible organizers kind of all over the city who are running for, the same things that we always fight for: taxing the rich, making sure that our transit is fully funded, making sure that our housing is beautiful and equitable and truly affordable, making sure that the child care program, again, is truly universal, durable for the long term, is not going to sundown in 2 years, and fighting to protect our neighbors from ICE. There are a few pieces of legislation on the table that would protect immigrant communities here in New York. One of them is New York for All, which would end the complicity or the collaboration between local law enforcement and federal immigration enforcement, which needs to pass this session. It's a big push from a lot of immigrant and coalition work, and really essential. The governor is moving on immigration, but she's not going nearly far enough. So there's that. There's access to representation to make sure that if you do end up in immigration proceedings, that you have a lawyer present, you have representation. The MELT Act to make sure that ICE agents can't cover their faces.
To make sure we melt them.
Melt ICE, baby. A lot of proposals on the table, but the ICE is something that, I mean, it's terrifying, and the chilling effect in New York is really, really bad. I talked to school principals who tell me that their kids are disappearing because they're having to work and drive Ubers and Lyfts because their parents are afraid to go out and actually do work.
Yeah.
It's a really untenable situation, and we need our state representatives to step up right now.
Sorry, I'm just grabbing Zin.
And Hochul wants to tax Zin too. I don't know if you.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Hey,
sorry.
chill.
Sorry,
chill.
Chad.
I was a big Hochul fan until this very moment. Kathy Hochul, my goat.
The only revenue on the table, unfortunately, is coming out of your good old Zin users.
I mean, I
Sorry,
don't care.
folks.
Yeah. I'm rich. Tax it. Also, yeah, no, I'm in favor of taxing vices.
Yes.
I think that's a good thing. I mean, it's a very unpopular thing to do,
It's unpopular,
but I'm in favor of it.
that's right.
Okay, so yeah, also I'm not from New York. So,
New Jersey.
well, I live in LA.
Yeah.
So, for me, I don't know. I don't think gruesome Governor Gavin Newsom is doing that anytime soon.
No,
He
unlike.
better not. So, all right, let's talk about Hochul a little bit. So, do you feel like she is cooperative so far? I mean, she's universal child care is pretty good.
It's good. Like I said, we only have funding for 2 years of full universal child care, and so we have to tax the rich, baby. And really, our power is going to come from the movement that helped elect Zoran. The power is going to come from the movement that hopefully is going to elect, a bunch of new assembly members, Democratic Socialist assembly members, to the New York State Legislature. And the power is going to come from the, thousands and thousands of people who were shouting and chanting "Tax the Rich" at Kathy Hochul at Forest Hill Stadium a few months ago. So that movement is really the thing that has to be sustained and maintained, and people have to stay ready to talk to their neighbors, to knock doors, to talk to their representatives who aren't budging. That's the energy.
Damn, we got paid protesters.
Sorry.
We got paid supporters.
That's the movement that's going to sustain the call to tax the rich, and it's actually going to make it happen. So that's the organizing that DSA and a bunch of other organizations are doing in the next few months, but it's going to take all of us doing it. There's a mass mobilization to go to Albany on February 25th. If you're in New York and you want to come up, please hit us up. We need 10,000 New Yorkers to come to Albany and make this demand really clear.
So what's the dynamic of the state assembly look like right now, as far as state assembly members that are, let's say, team Zoran, team DSA, team like this entire DSA slate versus antagonistic towards that, towards these policies?
I mean,
what's the breakdown? What's the percentage breakdown, give or take?
Hard to nail that number down. I'm not good at the math piece on this, but what I will say is that the mayor's race demonstrated there is a really broad constituency for a Democratic Socialist platform, obviously, and so that has really sent shockwaves through a lot of the political world in New York State, and so everyone's talking about affordability. Everyone's talking about utilities are too high, rent's too high, childcare is too high. And we need to really take aggressive action to make sure that our constituents aren't being left out in the actual cold, which is incredibly fuckable right now. But so people are moving a lot. People are moving. I think. I think this is a year of real opportunity, given Zoran's election, given the governor's race, given the kind of true affordability crisis that New Yorkers are facing. And so we're working on it. Like I said, it's going to take a real movement to organize to make sure that we get the revenue raises we deserve and need to make sure that the city is whole, the state is whole. We're negotiating a $252 billion budget right now. It's a lot of money. We have the resources to do what we need to do.
How do we ensure the spoilers on this agenda that are backed by corporate interests that will specifically play the role of undermining the legislative agenda at the state level that will, of course, impact New York City? How do we apply pressure towards them?
We need their constituents to speak. You know, here's what people respond to. Here's what politicians respond to: constituent power, voter power, and of course they respond to their donors. But there are a hell of a lot more of us than there are of the donor class. And so we need, again, the mass mobilization of people either coming to Albany, talking to their neighbors, making time to meet with their representatives, and making the case known that we have the room to tax the wealthiest New Yorkers, the most profitable corporations, and it is required of a mass movement to take on these corporate interests. Otherwise, we're gonna be screwed. And I think what I believe as a union organizer is that your average Joe has immense potential and immense political power, and what we need is to organize together to fight for the things we need.
Yeah. I ask this question all the time, given your experience so far in the state assembly, some of your colleagues, and I don't take any offense to this, I asked this to Rashida Tlaib, I asked this to every politician I talk to, and every elected I talk to, would you say they're cynical or stupid? Like, the issue is, the most common, the reason why I ask this question is, like, it's commonly around Israel, right? Like, there's obviously a groundswell of support for Palestinians, unlike ever in American history.
Absolutely.
It's an 80-20 issue favoring the side of the Palestinians, especially in the Democratic Party. This is a very blue city. This is a very blue state. Yet there are Democrats who don't abide by the interests of the base of support here.
Yep.
Is their inability to address this coming from a place of cynical posturing because they care more about AIPAC or they care more about Zionist donors that they have to their campaigns who care about Israel quite a bit? Or is it actually stupidity and they're still 2 years into this genocide very out of touch?
I think it's cynicism, to be honest. I think people are looking at a donor landscape rather than a mass movement landscape. They're kind of unwilling to see that the status quo is changing. It's changing from underneath their feet. And they're having a hard time catching up with that because the political status quo has had a lot of people came to office. You know, a lot of people went to the traditional track of doing politics as usual and have arrived at seats of power. And now we're trying to grapple with the fact that that's not how it's going to operate anymore. That we're mobilizing, that we're going to fight to take these seats back. We're going to fight for Palestinian liberation. That especially in New York and within the Democratic Party, that there's a mass recognition that you cannot claim to be progressive. You cannot claim to speak for human rights if you are not also calling for the end of the genocide and liberation of Palestine. So they're gonna fall behind at their own peril. But,
and it's not even this is no longer a question of being like brave politically, even though even in the last 2 years there have been tremendous institutional stigma still applied to those who dare to protest against these atrocities.
Absolutely.
At this point, it's undeniable that this played a role in Kamala Harris losing the election. This is an issue that the Democrats are completely on the opposing side of. And it's up to the electeds to realize which side they're on. Are they going to side with humanity? Are they going to side with barbarity? Or are they going to side with humanity and their base of support only?
Yes, absolutely.
So it's not just the elections, I think, that are a vehicle of pressure. Because it's very clear that Democrats are willing to burn an election and allow an incompetent, tyrannical fascist like Donald Trump to come back into power.
Sorry.
We got a lot of fans.
And they're all bowlers. Who knew? Wow.
Yeah.
An athletic base.
Yeah, now I know why you wanted to do it here. Are you a demon on the bowling?
Hardly, but we'll see. Bowling is one of those things where every time I do it, I'm like, what if I'm actually really good at this?
Oh,
And
so you
then
don't
I'm
even
not.
know.
No, I do know. I'm not good at it.
I'm really bad at bowling, which is why I was like, let's not do this. No, let's not do this at a bowling
I told
alley.
you don't bowl.
I suck at bowling.
Most do.
Even when I have the bumpers on, I still hit like maybe one at most.
What I've been told is that the lanes here can be a little dippy too. So you can always take that as the reason why.
I like that we have an excuse ahead of time.
It's really
That's
helpful
good.
to have. Yeah, go ahead and just check out.
So, you're originally from Texas.
It's true.
How did your background and your upbringing in Texas, how did you find socialism? Let's talk about that. This is one of my favorite things to hear from other people.
I think I found socialism through working. So I've had a lot of bad jobs, like many of us. I bagged groceries. I worked at Taco Bell, Pizza Hut, combination. I worked at Trader Joe's for many years. I came to New York for work, to work at a gallery here in Long Island City, actually. And I think before I identified as anything else in my life, I identified as a worker, as somebody who had to come in, clock in, stand on your feet all day, get burns at Taco Bell, freeze at Trader Joe's coolers. And my socialism really came out of the idea that bosses suck, workers deserve everything, and when we organize together, we can win the living conditions, the working conditions and living conditions, the living wages we deserve. And I joined DSA in 2019, kind of after seeing AOC get elected, after seeing Senator Julia Salazar be elected here in New York, and just seeing not so much that they got elected, but that everyday normal-ass people were the ones who got elected. Like regular people came together and beat this consulting class, the Democratic establishment, and that was really inspiring. So I joined DSA, I got involved with the Bernie Sanders campaign in 2020, I went and knocked a bunch of doors, pandemic hit, the rest is history. But what has kept me in DSA is this, it's deeply democratic. We recognize a lot of expertise and power and thoughtfulness in each other, and we make these endorsements based on our shared analysis and strategy. The Democratic Party doesn't give a shit if you have thoughts about who they should endorse or who should run. But in DSA, we really think hard about which districts, why now, who's that candidate, and make these kind of calls together. And it's really, I don't know, I love it. It's nerdy. It's tedious, but I like it a lot. It's the most democratic process that I have ever experienced.
Something that Bernie Sanders said when endorsing Ana Lulia Mejia in the now upset victory, the underdog victory that she's about to receive in New Jersey 11. Something that he said on the campaign trail for her, I thought was really enlightening about the strategy that we have here, which is that I think he said, our fight is not just with the Republicans. Same old business as usual politics in the Democratic side
100%.
is also something that needs to change. Our fight is with the establishment Democrats as well. Do you see yourself as representative of a different politics?
Yeah, absolutely.
For that reason?
100%.
That you will take the fight to establishment Democrats as well?
Yeah, absolutely. And the reason that our fight is with Republicans and established Democrats alike is because they share the same donors. They're still funded by AIPAC. They're still funded by real estate. They're still funded by corporate interests who have a stake in gutting our labor protections, in keeping us in as precarious a situation as possible so they can make a maximum profit. And that is the fight. That's the real fight. And if we have to go through establishment Democrats to win that fight too, we will.
What are some of the biggest hurdles you feel like you must climb as a socialist elected? Do you feel like there's still a lot of stigma around the word socialism, Marxism?
In some ways, yeah. I will say New York 7 is one of the most probably the most progressive left district in the entire country. It is the heart of the Commie Corridor here in New York City, and it's represented at the state level in almost every corner by a Democratic Socialist. So if there's any district in the country that is primed for a Democratic Socialist Congress member, it is New York 7. But there's, you still meet some suspicion with the words. There's still stigma. The right has done a very good job.
And the liberals too.
And the liberals too, yeah, absolutely.
Which I would consider to be reactionary and right-wing.
Yeah.
But
100%. No, there's been a long propaganda program against the idea of democratic socialism, erasing them from the labor movement. And that's to our movement's history's detriment. But I think what we represent is a positive program for working people, housing for all, healthcare for all, a 4-day work week, time off, a retirement, pensions. All of those things are won by leftists, and that's what most working people are hungry for.
yeah, I think there's a concept of consensus politics in the current duopoly that exists in America.
Uh-huh.
You got the liberal Democratic Party, and you have the conservative Republican Party. What's up? Oh, damn! Let's go.
Yeah. That's so much pico.
There's a lot of salsa.
There's a lot of pico in one place.
Let's see. So look, I'm a LA guy now. I'm basically a LA native at this point. I've been living there for like 13 years. So let's see if this holds up to the same standards.
It will not. Stop you right there. It's not going to.
No, that's bomb.
Okay, great.
I love the with nachos. I love the shitty melted cheese. I prefer it.
I do too, though. I'm tracking the best nachos in New York 7. Stiff competition. There's some good shit out there. But the bad melted cheese is like the best.
What's your background, by the way? Wait, what's your ethnicity?
Native American, Mexican American. Yeah. Family's been in Texas and the Southwest United States before it was the Southwest United States. Yeah.
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
Do they say the border crossed us? You hear that?
Yeah.
Sometimes I feel like that's what people in Texas say.
Sure. And it did.